Yes, she is a bitch. B-I-C-T-H. You bitch.
And welcome back to the Crimson Report. We are here live on the footage. I am messing up.
We are live on the scene.
Ever since those bitches got that fucking snack machine 3 floors down, I'm telling you, now that's all I'm thinking about. I'm messing up my lines. Girl.
You better tighten up because we want our own snack machine. The fuck?
So, sister, how are you?
I'm very well. Thank you so much. How are you? Hydrated, I hope?
I'm very hydrated. Thank you so much. You know, just yum.
Yum, yum, yum.
So, sister, I don't know if you've heard, but recently the streets and the girls have been talking about a new special that has come out with Dave Chapelle, and he has a new Netflix special, and I think it's called The Closer or The Closing.
Or The Closer, I don't know.
Closer to You, I don't know. Right, so we watched it as informed girls because we heard from our little section of the LGBT community,
a faggot,
that they found this to be somewhat of a problematic, troublesome ordeal, and I said, okay, we're there. Problematic, hello.
Right, up in arms, we are.
Wasn't he? So we saw it, and I went in it with the preconceived information of people telling me that this had some very offensive jokes towards the trans community, and this is why a lot of LGBT people are like feeling a little on the curve, right, about it. So decided to watch it. Mm-hmm. So as a whole, let's start off with each answering this question. Do you feel like Dave Chappelle's comedy special should be taken down from Netflix?
No.
Right. I personally don't think so either. But I want us to talk more in depth about it because
of course
there are a lot of points that why we came to that opinion. Mm-hmm. And with me personally, I was conflicted because I'm from the standpoint that if it's in the realm of humor and all of that, and it is all meant to generate a good time or something like that, I'm more open and willing to work with that information and not write people off. I'm also not that quick to just write people off as things that I have no clear, concise evidence of.
Can we just point this out right now?
Come on.
We are not talking about somebody like Boosie.
What about the children?
Who is just talking out their ass. We're talking about somebody who pre anything he fucking says, you need to know you're going to a paid entertainment comedy special.
He's not on Twitter being like,
he's
fuck
not
those
on Twitter.
flagheads.
Right, like, so you need to already go in with a grain of salt knowing that he's going to be poking fun. Because just like any other comedian out there, if anyone in the crowd starts heckling, they're going to read them to death no matter how fucking offensive or whatever it is. So starting there, we're not dealing with Boosie, we're dealing with a comedian whose job is to clown.
And also, while we're talking about that, there was a lot of points that he said in the special that I agreed with. One of them being, gays are minorities until they need to be white again.
Hello.
Hello, because
Konnichiwa.
First of all, let's talk about this from two sides, because he's also talking, Dave Chappelle is also talking about gay people as if and though there are no black gay people in this community. What's the tea? So let's start there.
I wouldn't actually say that.
With this statement, yes, gays are minorities until blah blah blah. He didn't say white gays.
No, but that's the thing. Dave Chappelle's commentary has always been a criticism towards white people, so whenever he makes broad statements like this, unfortunately, human beings listening out there need to rub the 2 brain cells in their fucking brain to realize that, one, white people is whom he is talking about, even though it is definitely a broadened term.
But that's not, he doesn't clarify. So when you say
he does clarify later on.
But when you say a statement that is gays don't need to and that's how you started the conversation, it would, as somebody, because let's act like they're because he's generational comedian, you can also not act like, because there are new people coming in here, that, oh, because you don't know who Dave Chappelle is. Like, I don't know who Dave Chappelle is. So based on how you conducted yourself and based on what you said, I don't forget what I was saying. Really?
But here's the thing, and this is why I'm saying, if you actually, and why he also says in his stand-up, like, if you actually listen to the entire special in its entirety instead of nitpicking,
you're a giant. So you might just want to like lay low.
Even though he makes the broadened statement of what gay people only are minorities until they need to be white again, is because later on he says, a gay black person wouldn't call the police in that scenario that he was bringing up because they know exactly what's going to happen when the police show up. Right. Unlike white people in that Karen video we covered, bitch was quick to call the police.
Right. Right. And this is where a lot of opinions and things come from, because are we gonna... how can I put this?
Here's not to say that I agree with 100% everything he said in there, because I don't appreciate the poking fun of masculine, like trans women who still have like masculine features, because everyone is in a different point in their journey of transitioning, and everyone has a different end goal on what they want to be and live and become, or whatever. But
to add on that, and one of the main things that I was talking about throughout this whole special, which I just, like, this was all straight people humor.
Okay.
This was all heteronormative humor, that it was like,
this is nothing groundbreaking.
Like, the point of the jokes a lot were like, it's funny because they're not like what we are. They're not straight. They're not heteronormative. So it's like, haha, look at that manly woman. Haha, look at that gay, like, flamboyant ass. Like, I could tell he was gay because he was dressed like this. I'm not saying that some of those jokes were not funny. I chuckled at many of them because in context they are funny. It was just, like I said, a comedy special that was from a person whose career is just based on, I don't have a line. Like I just say what I say, and it is what it is.
Yeah.
It wasn't so, none of the jokes struck me as offensive. It just struck me as, oh, you're just a straight person that probably has never really intimately interacted with gay people. It has never really personally affected your life, and if it has, you probably don't care about it because you don't have that much of a deep connection with the LGBT community. So it's like, I get it. You're just another straight person telling a joke.
Oh, now that's how you clear a bitch.
However, with that said, because you are now telling jokes about a community that you're not part of, that you don't have a close, intimate relationship with, you are now at the scrutiny for that said community to come at you and be like, baby, you don't know us. Baby, you don't know what this is. Like, so what are all these... What happens is, because that community, the trans community in particular, is so targeted already, they're going to feel that there are certain members that are just going to be radically upset about this, because this is once again perpetuating the fact that straight people can make fun of trans and gay. Well, now, let's not say gay people, because this is particularly about trans people, but they can make fun of trans people in such a big stage as Netflix, and they will get no repercussions because it's treated as just a joke and everything and all of the things. It just has to come with, like, I understand what that point is coming from. I just feel like their point is also missing the very big variable that Dave Chappelle was doing a comedy special.
Yeah, and here's the thing, and he even says it himself, it's like he's doing a comedy act. Like, this doesn't reflect how he truly feels about certain situations, because he understands, like, there are people who, in the livelihood of, like, what they're trying to do, like, there are people who struggle, and, like, this is not, like, listen, trans people have their whole complete issues, and he recognizes that. But, you know, like as comedians do, they poke fun at whatever they feel. For him, it was definitely the mass gays and the lesbians and fighting women and all of that, or whatever, fighting that particular lesbian.
Which, all those outrageous statements that he says, like, I believe that he can say them because he's in an environment where he's socially made it like a thing, and very aware that this is, I'm going to start telling jokes. Like, I'm going to start making, like, a funny environment. So that already, like, gets me in the position of being not so critical, because he's not, like you said, he's not being on Twitter being politically
he's not
charged.
Just running his mouth. He's being paid to stand here and make fun of, like, a particular situation, and this story happened to him in real life, then he's gonna make a joke out of it.
He did call his comedy art, and that you can interpret it how you want. So that just tells me that he's aware that, you know, everybody can interpret his jokes how they want to. which is like, I feel like that's the best he can do. Just sit back and be like, well, that's not what I meant, but it was just a joke.
Imagine all the white people when he was doing the Dave Chappelle show. Imagine all the white people that probably didn't appreciate his takes on certain things. Right. Even though granted, there are white people that do love him, but it's like there's always going to be people that don't like his jokes. Because I'm sorry, there are probably trans people out there that did not mind like his stand-up or whatever. Even though there's a huge number of you that, you know.
So this is a good part, like, just because, and this goes out to all the gay and the trans people that did enjoy his special, because now it feels like those people think that they have leverage to say, well, I didn't mind it. You cannot take away something from, and a good example was when I saw T.S. Madison say, I'm not interested in watching that show because I don't find him funny.
Right.
So that's very much telling me, like, from the perspective of her, that she was already like, I didn't watch it because I didn't find it funny, and I'm not interested in watching it now that I find that, like, you know, the clips that they show for the material. It's like, girl, if you're saying this, I don't want to see that. Like, I don't want to fill my life with hearing another straight man talk shit about trans women and making it a joke. Like, that's not funny to me, because that kind of like, right. And this is where
Miss Madison used her brain
and
chose not to click.
Right, because it was very much so like, oh no, y'all could watch that. Like, I get that that's funny for y'all. That's not funny for me because this is my life. Ha 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 ha.
Right.
So it does become like I also have to respect those people that are like, I did not find it funny, blah 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 blah. Sure. However, we also have to get real. Like, do I feel like, because this raises up another question. Like, people are so quick to cancel him. But I don't see the same amount of outrage when certain other comedians of a lighter skin tone get the same thing. So could this be him getting a huge response because he's a black man? Because we've seen that happen in the past.
Oh, yeah.
So that is very much aware in my brain, too. So I'm not so quick to just be like, oh, take his special down. Oh, he's not funny. Because some of them were funny.
Yeah,
there are a couple of jokes that were really, really funny.
I obviously am not trans.
Right.
Like, end of day, period. And I try to be sympathetic towards all walks of life. I try to give everybody benefit of the doubt. I'd be like, all right, say your piece, say your grievances. I want to hear them, so that way I can be like, all right, like, was there really... Again, I'm not the judge, executioner, or anything to say whether or not you should be outraged or not, but I feel like there is such a thing as blowing things a little out of proportion. Just a little bit. And granted, yes, there are things in the stand-up that I really just didn't, like, I did not laugh. I had a straight face. There was this one white woman in the crowd where I was like, I'm her. She didn't laugh once.
One thing we also discussed is very generational humor.
Yeah, it's very generational. He was referencing things about like gay face in the 80s. I'm not an 80s child.
Right.
Like, I'm a millennial. Like, I don't know what the fuck he's talking about. So to me, this is very much like old head, like, straight man humor, which...
his main thing where he started to bring up J.K. Rowling as a...
see.
I agree with her, and I was like, oof.
And one thing about the comments, they are not on your side.
And this is why I'm saying he's old, because let me tell you how he was quickly confusing sex and gender.
Yeah,
like,
I don't think his definition of sex and gender is what a lot of other people use, which is why I was like, oh, this is usually what old straight people do. Like,
yeah, it means one and the same.
Right, if you're a man, you're a man. But they don't understand the social construct of woman and man, and then the biology of sex, which is male and female, which trans people never argue with you, and they never say, I'm not a male, I'm a female. They say, I'm a woman. Because there is that understanding that they will never be female, that they will never biologically be a female. That's not what that's where their main frustration comes. That's not what I'm arguing. I'm arguing that I am a woman, though, and they're like, why? It's like, because being a woman is not just about having ovaries and this and that, because as we said, there are women that don't have ovaries that
or uteruses or anything. They're still women.
Honey, it's still me, honey.
Right, being a woman is how you get treated in society, because there are trans women that get treated treated like hetero cis women because they just unclockable.
I'm a queen.
Which is why I know some people might take this with a grain of salt. The last little bit in the special where he talks about Daphne,
Yes.
as like,
Oh, girl,
yeah, the little personal story, whatever. But I actually was eating that shit up because one,
Right. I was not. I was very aware. Like, this is an entertainment. This is a show, and you need a closer.
But anyway.
Anyways.
right? But there's still no discounting that. One, that was his friend. Two, she fucking killed herself because with whatever reason that was going on in her personal life. But it's
And
very
that she's
much,
also not a monolith for trans people. But
Right.
that was her friend. But then he talked about her like she was the one epitome of trans people that he had in contact with. Like, she was the
no.
associate.
There was other trans people that he was talking about in his special. That's what I'm saying. Like, if you don't listen to everything within its context, then you miss out on small nuances that he glosses.
That's suspicious. That's weird.
Like, that he talks about.
Those small nuances, in my opinion, are not enough to invalidate him from the bigger conversation that we're having.
Right, so then,
it's like nice little detail.
but that's the thing though. Like, if you're gonna exclude all of that, then we're gonna continue to completely villainize him because we're gonna remove all of those small things. Like, I would
I don't
rather.
think it's villainized when you're just
It-
calling out what he did and how it affects other people.
But this
in the
is
context
now
of that.
okay. So then let's cancel his fucking special. Take it off of Netflix.
Okay.
Comedians can't talk about gay people or trans people at all, and then
Oh, boo-hoo. Let me play a sad song for you.
we have to start listening to Louis C.K. talking about his boring life, his wife, and his fucking children. And it's like, who wants to listen to that? I think what I'm trying to say is
Okay.
that there are different perspectives. Just like how there's a lot of trans people that did not like this special. I'm sure there's also a few trans people that were just like, okay, I didn't like that take, but haha, I could laugh at a couple of things or whatever.
Right.
And then you have people like T.S. Madison who just don't find him funny, period. Like,
Yeah.
everyone is valid in that. And rest in peace for you, Daphne, but like, I didn't think it was tasteless for him to bring that up, considering that, like,
It wasn't
know.
tasty because it was his friend. It was his experience. What I'm saying is,
It's the whole J.K. Rowling thing for me.
I just saw past that little, like, to me, because I don't know. I've seen show business and entertainment before, and it's always like,
come on, executive producer from
hello,
California.
putting my cap on. Like, it is not beyond me to think the structure of this show has to be funny, and ended out with something that surmises me as a human being, personifies me as being open-minded and empathetic, and saying, even though I don't understand you, I respect who you are. That's not lost beyond me, because if he, to me, I would have sopped it up like you would have sopped it up if he would have done this outside of somewhere where he got paid. If he wouldn't have gotten paid millions of dollars for this, I would have been like, oh wow, that seems genuine. But since he did it in his little million paid dollar show, it doesn't hit me as hard, and I'm not crying and boo-hooing about his little friend that he was like, I was so upset she died, and then like,
Okay.
end of the special. It's kind of like, okay.
Right. So I guess we are going to villainize Dave Chapelle.
Well, you can use the word villainize because you might see it as villainizing. That's how you see me not falling for all of that, and like how me just seeing it as a prop in an act. And
I think that takes away the humanity, though, from certain people, and which is why I'm kind of like, you can always look at things as a production, sure, but at the end of the day, people are people.
But it's
and
TV.
He does say, hold on, he does say, yes, you can interpret his art however you wish, which I guess you interpreted it in that way, but
I interpret this is just another part of your act. Like, okay, like this is just it's just like another part of whatever. Like, this was not something that he did as a genuine like thing or response, because it's not like he made this whole thing about her. He used her as a closing bit. I thought that was fine. That's his personal experience. He was talking about how he felt and how the injustice of the world. Amazing. Like, my thing is like, that's not gonna like deter me or make me feel soft and gushy inside because you had a trans friend that you don't understand, and that in all your rhetoric that you're saying, all you told me that was that she was somebody that was outside of the norm and was somebody that understood that, you know what, you can, comedy is something else, and she appreciated that.
well, she was a comedian herself.
Right, so, but again, like, he's using his own personal narrative to do whatever, and I thought it was lovely, nice story. Anyways, next segment.
Oh, girl.
Like, it was like it didn't hit me, and it didn't make me look at Dave Chappelle like, oh wow.
Okay, hold on. I'm not saying that now. Hold the fuck up.
But that's what I'm saying. I didn't look at that segment like, oh my god, like he's not transphobic. No.
I wouldn't. I mean,
it had that effect on me. I was like, okay, like that's nice. You knew her. I understood.
Like, oh my god.
Anyway, like you're a human being. And then he had this point where he was like, where he remembered the phrase that she said, like, I don't need you to believe me or something.
Well, I don't need you to understand me. I just need you to believe me
that I'm having a human experience.
Exactly.
That was a nice little. That's the most thing I got. I was like, oh wow, that's a nice little message. But then even then, if she would have said that, wouldn't you have already been thinking about this? Like, oh, maybe she was having a human experience because she's going. Like, you would have taken yourself. That's what I'm saying. If that would have meant so much to him and all the things, and I would have been gagged by the thing, I would have been like, oh, so he's probably thinking about this more than we give him credit for. But no, it was just the end of the special.
Not really impressed with her too much.
So I'm personally going to be like, work, good for you.
So you're saying that because it was at the end of the special that it was
it
because
seems
you were
produced because it seems produced because you're
Girl,
not gonna. You're
talking
not gonna,
about the whole special about one person and then leading up to that would. I think that
it seems produced because you're not gonna tell me that the order of the schedule was not joke, and then personalized moment where I can bring it all together.
I
Girl,
mean, if this is not a comedy show.
Exactly. You just thank you for saying it's a comedy show.
I know, but what I'm saying is that even though it is a comedy show, regardless if you put it in the beginning, the middle, or the fucking end, it doesn't matter because at the end of the day, to me, if he had put the whole story with Daphne in the beginning and then still followed with all this shit, to me that would have come off more insensitive. Because I think the point of this whole conversation with like the comedy special or whatever is just his experience, joke, but then like I need y'all to understand, despite let's ignore the J.K. Rowling thing because that to me was like a whole stupid bit. But yeah, like girl.
But then he said he's team her.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm like.
But that's another reason for like it. Like this was just like. Do you understand? Like
that's why I'm saying this bitch is just old because is this not a classic? I'm confusing both of the or thinking these two things are synonymous together. But
I get it. Your reasoning is saying I just think she's old, and my thing is I just feel like this is produced, and I know who she is. Work like. Again, like, because she said things that contradict, she's like, I'm team them and women are women. However, my trans friend, Papa, I respect her. I don't understand you, but I understand you having no human experience.
I think that humans are complex, and when they say a bunch of shit in a segment, that it doesn't write them off as the one thing. I think that Dave Chappelle is many things. Old, from another time, he's straight, he's maybe transphobic, maybe a TERF. But, you know, I wouldn't lump all one thing for, because, you know, like I said, humans are dynamic.
Yeah.
Oops. Humans are dynamic, and they are able to carry multiple labels, despite what you want to put just the one and done label on him.
Right.
And
I will say that people are very quick to just label people as something.
Sure.
Because of, but then we would have to say, well, aren't your actions deemed worthy of, like, us seeing how you are? But again, as we said in the beginning, I personally don't feel like this should be taken down because
I don't think so either.
But then I will also state this: me and my sister are not trans or of the trans experience, so I would be more willing to hear a trans person's explanation of this because I know that there are people that liked it and people that didn't.
Right.
So it's just about perspective and talking about it.
Right.
Now, I will say, before we cut off, his response to this, did you ever get this? It was very much like, well, I'm not going to be, because they like kind of asked them to talk about it at the protest, and he was like, no, the one at Netflix where they were like,
oh, okay.
And he was like, no, y'all summoned me there. I'm not going to be summoned.
Y'all summoned me.
Yes, he said, no. I do agree because that is orchestrated, but I will say that was the invitation because Dave Chappelle, it's not like they got your number, sis.
You better double check yourself.
It's like they can't just go up and be like, give me Dave Chappelle's number. I need to message her. So
No.
that was their kind of invitation. So it's just like Kevin Hart when he was like, I apologize about that. I'm not doing it again. Let me tell you what that gives me. Ooh. That gives me, y'all need to get over that. And for me, it's if you made a transgression. If I made a transgression and it was whatever, I did it. Like, there's two ways for me. There's two ways of responding to it. It's like, yes, I did that. You can't use that against me. I understand that you're upset about that. You're just coming across this.
You're brand new.
Right, I've apologized about this before, but however, since I know that you knew and you were invested in this, blah 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 blah, all of the things. However, that's not what the girls do. The girls are just like, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of this. And it's like, you are famous or a public figure or all that shit now. Like, there are people coming into this that might just know you from like, oh, didn't you do that thing where you didn't like gay
Yeah, but
people?
you know what? Here's the thing. Like, at the end of the day, comedians are gonna comede. They're gonna be comics. They're gonna do their thing. If you're trans and you hate this, valid. If you're trans and you liked it, valid. And jokes are jokes. I know that is in poor taste because he even made a joke in the expense of his dead friend. But
which that was like, and everybody in that was like, oh. But even that, I was like, and me, as much as I am going like kind of sort of in the train against him, I thought that was like a brave kind of joke that I wasn't like, ooh, no. I was like, girl, you probably knew your friend better than half these people.
Right, and like he said, she would have fucking laughed. And
right, and that's what I'm saying. What I'm not for, before we leave, I'm not for taking away his experience with her. Right. That's not the tea.
And I think that's something to keep in mind. I know she's the outlier. I'm not saying he needs to know every single trans person on Facebook.
Right.
But there is still trans people out there that live a little bit of a different experience than some of you hive mind people.
Right.
Because I'm so sorry. I know, like, for some reason, I always think of the Chicago gays. They're very much in the same bubble.
Right.
You know, there are people that live different experiences that are still within your community and their opinions and their views, and if they're supporting him, then let them fucking support him. I don't know. Either way, don't take off his fucking thing. If you don't want to watch it, don't fucking watch it.
And truth be told, like, let people just how should we end this one?
I feel like you are able to question. Just because it's a joke doesn't mean we should just sweep it under and be like, a joke's a joke.
Right.
No, because let me tell you something. There's a lot of comedians, I fucking hate them. They're not funny.
Right.
However, I think that sometimes, but it's hard though, because it's like these are people that have always been like at the expense of these jokes.
This is why I was having a hard time with this, because at one point half of my identity is, bitch, the joke is funny, say the joke. But if the other half is, wait, but because you're close to this community, like, and people in that community are telling you that's not funny, it's like, oh, why is it not funny? And then when you hear it sometimes, it's like, oh, I get it. You don't find it funny because you live that life.
Right.
So that's where it takes me, like, step back and be like,
how many
okay.
people, if we start playing the numbers game, which I'm so sorry, I don't want anyone to think I'm fucking transphobic for saying this, but it's like, if we play the numbers game, though, it's like, out of all the trans people that are going to find this, like, completely terrible or whatever, it's like, it's still such a small number. That's why, like, Netflix is not going to put this down.
Because they're like, the minority, yes.
Yeah, so
that's why I'm saying why I personally am more open aware of it, because they're the minority, that doesn't mean that their feelings are any less valid,
right,
or any less maybe correct. Because if we think about it like this, if a black person gets offended at a black joke said by somebody that is not black,
right,
I would want to hear their opinion, because they could be like, no, sister, that joke was not funny because da 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 da.
Right.
So I'm just coming at it from this perspective. So at the end of the day, Dave Chappelle, I'm not gonna cancel you. However, daughter, joke, we laughed 4 times?
I laughed a few times.
But for an hour, we're gonna have to shorten that special down to like 14 minutes?